Hello. I'm David Letterman, and tonight I'm here with Charlie Sheen discussing a novel called The Rainbow by D. H. Lawrence. Hi David and Oppos. Me Charlie Sheen. The greatest. Okay, let's start. What was most intriguing about this novel to you? Well, I thought the novel was amazing, and I really loved eloquent prose that was used throughout the novel. It was so elaborate. I did not know what to do with myself. Essentially, Lawrence shows how characters are determined in part by the time and place in which they live, and he also dramatizes how they struggle to reconcile conflicting feelings and impulses. Lawrence shows how feelings cannot be conveyed adequately by conventional language, and his poetic prose style also illustrates the importance of imagery and conveying meaning to the text. Yes. That was the same thing that went through my mind. I thought I had gotten a dose of Charlie Sheen or something. Wait. I was not finished. Moreover, the novel is filled with the language of connection and dislocation, and contains some of the most memorable and evocative representations of that connection between people and the land in English literature. For example, the scene with Anna and Will Brangwen stacking sheaves of corn under a harvest moon, laden with typical Laurentian imagery that foreshadows the nature of the future relationship between the two characters. She took her new 2 sheaves and walked towards him, as he rose from stooping over the earth. He was coming out of the near distance. She set down her sheaves to make a new stook. They were unsure, her hands fluttered. Yet she broke away, and turned to the moon, which laid bare her bosom, so she felt as if her bosom were heaving and panting with moonlight. And he had to put up her 2 sheaves, which had fallen down. He worked in silence. The rhythm of the work carried him away again, as she was coming near, and there was the flaring moon laying bare her bosom again, making her drift and ebb like a wave. So you see what I mean? Lawrence's representation of the deep and instinctive connection between humans and the natural world, and all the ways in which it was threatened by the industrial machine. And the way in that he conveys it via his erudite diction. He delves deep into the reader and Oppos' soul and allows them to feel what the characters in the novel also feel. It and Oppos' like he had a dose of Charlie Sheen. Maybe he was the first Charlie Sheen. I sort of understand. So are you implying that you are not the originator of Charlie Sheenism? Are you saying you may be an imitator of D. H. Lawrence rather than being the originator of coolness? That's a good question. But I don't know. But let me get back to explaining my view of this novel. Additionally, D. H. Lawrence uses varied ways to express Ursula's feelings and experience through the passage. Each of the techniques he uses create a different impact on the reader, all expressing Ursula's thought and feelings. One of the most obvious things about the writing in this passage is the overwhelming use of military language. Lawrence repeats the ideas that he establishes at the beginning of the passage many times throughout the main body of the writing. The first is describing the children filing into their desks. Filling the ranks of desks. Lawrence uses the imagery of the desks being in ranks to begin the repetition of military language. The next and one of the most repeated ideas is of the children being an enemy, in which he constantly states, "block of children." Through Ursula's character, Lawrence repeats this idea, to enforce the idea of the children being the enemy, a wall and an impenetrable force. The term block creates very strong imagery of the children being a large faceless meaningless mass, which she cannot and does not want to be part of. Ursula feels threatened by the children, and Lawrence calling them a block makes them seem even more intimidating. Lawrence also uses military language when talking about the first appearance. So, in writing this novel, Lawrence connects with the audience on a psychological basis in that he employs convincing confirmation of a self-psychology view of creative drive, in which one can assume that in The Rainbow he was really pursuing his own self-healing. Exactly. That is my main point. The Rainbow retains its power of explanation, its capacity to demystify us to ourselves. Not least physically, to read Lawrence is to read with the body as well as the mind. For this he will always be treated with suspicion, with caution, as long as the formation of the human personality is based around the denial or misrepresentation of the body and Oppos' wants. But Lawrence possessed the bitter knowledge born of his own experience, that originality and truth will always meet with rejection by the common mind. It was to the individual that he addressed himself, for it is as individuals that we recognize truth, and as individuals that we read. This is why Lawrence was a writer, and why reading him remains a subversive, transformative, life-altering act. Anyone encountering Lawrence and Upho's prose for the first time will feel the immediate force of its revelations, the density of its character and its originality. The opening pages of The Rainbow, with their evocation of the cyclical harmony of man and beast and land, are among the most memorable in English literature. This is provocative writing, but provocation is far from being Lawrence and Upho's aim. Rather, he is serving his own vision of an original world free of shame, out of which arises the discord of gender. The women were different. On them too was the drowse of blood intimacy, calves sucking and hens running together in droves, and young geese palpitating in the hand while the food was pushed down their throttle. But the women looked out from the heated, blind intercourse of farm life, to the spoken world beyond. They were aware of the lips and the mind of the world speaking and giving utterance. They heard the sound in the distance, and they strained to listen. For these reasons, Lawrence is regarded as one of the 20th century's most important short story writers. Through his innovative use of psychological themes and his distinctive application of a heightened realism to quotidian English society, he produced some of the earliest and, some critics believe, finest, modernist prose. Lawrence demonstrated a wide imaginative range in his short fiction that was often lacking in his novels, and to many observers his fresh masterful approach extended the conventions of the short story genre. Although some critics fault several of Lawrence's stories for exhibiting failed symbolism, fanatical didacticism, and controversial views, he is nonetheless celebrated for his trenchant insights into the deepest impulses of life, his devotion to illuminating human passion, and his original perspective on the problems posed by human relationships. Wow! That was really a mouthful. But I and my audience understand Lawrence and his writing style, no problem. I was lost the first time I read the novel, but after I read while taking a dose of Charlie Sheen I completely understood. I knew exactly where he was coming from, and I even felt like I could create my own philosophy, which is a man that is saying F you to America, F you to cults, false religions, sanctimonious groups. I am saying that I as an individual can heal myself. America was built on individual values. We are a nation of rebels, born from rebels. How can you not celebrate a rebel trying to win as an individual? But enough about me. I need to get a refill of Charlie Sheen, so I will let my nephew Leighton Green finish talking about this topic. Okay, thank you for talking with me tonight. See you. All right.